Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Mahon-Murphy Funeral Home. Today we're here to celebrate the life of Sarah MacLeod, and I have the pleasure of introducing Reverend Chuck Behrens from Hospice of the Western Reserve. He's the spiritual care coordinator. First, we are going to start with a song with the bagpipes by Mark Donnelly. Immediately following, Chuck will come up and take the podium. But thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
That's a great way to celebrate a life that's been well lived. And because of each and every one of you, continues now to live on in each and every one of us. We always say it's a celebration of life. We always have to recalibrate what we think about when we come to days like this, folks. But again, I think you know these definitions better than they can ever be expressed or be found in any kind of book, or certainly any kind of a dictionary. We kind of misspell things today. When we think of family, we don't spell family F-A-M-I-L-Y. We don't spell friends F-R-I-E-N-D-S. They're all spelled the same way with L-O-V-E. Our love brings us here today. That's the celebration. No, not our grief. We have that. But we don't have it without love. So I want to welcome each and every one of you for being at a time and a place that you know is so much more important that you can't be anywhere else except at this time and place right now. And many words will be spoken today. But I don't think any more words are more powerful or certainly more essential right now than the words we're about to hear. The Word of God is always a strong word because one way or the other, especially during this Holy Week that is right upon us, it takes on flesh. And more than just taking on flesh, it literally moves into our neighborhoods and lets itself known in a very powerful and a very most significant way. We're about to hear those words as we continue this celebration of Miss Sarah.
One Thessalonians verses 13 through 18. Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind, who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. According to the Lord's word, we will tell you that we who are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage one another with these words.
Good morning.
John 14, 1 through 3. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many rooms. If it were not so, I would not have told you. I am going there to prepare a place for you, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that where I am, you will also be.
I know it's a personal favorite of mine. In my Father's house, there are many rooms, and I go to prepare a place for you, so that where I am, you will always be. Folks, I look out here upon each and every one of you, and this is a pretty easy guess to make. We're filled here in this room with parents, and grandparents, aunts, and uncles. I got this precious baby right in front of me. Now, you remember this, right? You remember the first time. And it probably wasn't the only time, because it wasn't the only time for me. I've got 5 kids that you found out that you were expecting. Remember what a magical time that was? I mean, this is long before the baby is born. I mean, we make all these preparations, don't we? I mean, all the blankets, all the lotions, all the powders. You put together a crib that everyone says you don't need directions for, but it takes you nearly 9 months to do that. And this is all before the baby is born. You prepare this beautiful, special place, and then, as if that place isn't special enough, the baby's born, brought home, very first time. Doesn't matter if it's first, second, how many kids you have. Probably not to that place that you prepared these past 9 months for that baby, but an even more sacred, special, more secure, definitely a more loving place, right there in your own room, usually right on mom's side. Why? So before that child ever cries out for want or need or hunger, you're already supplying that need. Now, every single one of us knows this. It doesn't end there, does it? That baby, that infant becomes a toddler. And it grows up, and all the while in our homes, we continue to create these places of peace and comfort and certainly lots of security and an abundance of love. And I got to tell you, the places I've prepared for my kids as teenagers weren't the places that I wanted to go have it. They weren't the places that I wanted to be a part of. And then this magical thing happens, you become a grandparent. And you do the same thing for your grandkids. And yet, when they're there, no. You make sure that whatever place that was that you created for them is even more special. This is part of the biggest celebration that Sarah's ever had in her life. Because in her 91 years, when that's all she's done is prepare places, that does what? Brings comfort, brings happiness, brings security, brings love. Doesn't even sniff at that place that is magically and mystically and most powerfully and significantly been created for her. And part of that great place is that she's not there alone. She's been reunited with everybody that she's loved, everyone that's known her. And not only that, but come on, the place that I have a thought of where I'd like to be and how I want it to be created for me, somehow even more magnificently has been created specifically and intimately just for Sarah. And folks, it's not for a generation. It's not for a time. It's certainly not for some 91 years. It is for an ever. And the best part about all of that, as if we need another best part, one day, all of us, we too get to be in that place that specifically has been prepared for Sarah too. I mean, come on, half of what makes heaven heaven is the fact that one day we are all going to be reunited again. And again, not for a generation, not for a time, hey, not for a holiday, not for a gathering like this, but for an ever that passes even our most significant and deepest imaginations. And yeah, you're right, for eternity. Man, I can't get my head around that. Because, that's right. Not just in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament it's said, isn't it? No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mouth has told, no mind has ever imagined, a glory that awaits each of us, whom God most assuredly and enduringly loves. Who's he talking about, Sarah? He's talking about you too. Folks, that's what makes heaven heaven. So yes, there's all kinds of emotions that brings us to a day like today. And we can fashion it by saying it really is the celebration of her life. And there's probably no one more that likes a piper than I do. Because I come on, what more of a celebration? And not just because, you know, he happens to be a piper, but he's playing some really great songs that brings us to places that our memories, boy, I'll tell you what, brings us right back to. But even now creates new memories too. We've heard words that have been spoken. Hey, can we pause right again, just to hear the music that unites us, that speaks that universal language that everybody understands. So once again, let's just pause as Mark brings us that magic, for the magic that we know now Sarah will never ever not be without.
Not in here with me. I want to start by saying good morning and thanking everybody that's here in the hall to be with us here today. But again, whether you're within the hall or watching on the live stream broadcast. Today we gather to honor, remember, and say goodbye for now to my mom, also known as Nana, Aunt Sadie, Sarah, or simply Mrs. MacLeod. When I think of my mother, I think, what a life. Our lives have all been touched by Sarah in some way, but you may not know some of the details of her early life. My mother was born Sarah White Reed Steen on April 22nd, 1933 at 7:30 a.m. at her parents' home at 99 Caroline Street in Glasgow, Scotland. When Mom was just 6 years old, World War II had started, and me, loving history, used to ask Mom about any memories she may have had of that time. To my surprise, she would say, "Oh yeah, I remember the air raid sirens going off at night, and all the power in the city lights would shut off, so the German fighter planes couldn't see us." She said the air raid sirens would blare, and then her mother, sister, and father would run down the 3-story stairs to the backyard bomb shelter, and then Mom started laughing. She remembered then her brothers, a little bit older, would run to the roof and start shooting down the German planes with their toy guns. I thought, wow. Here she was, a 6-year-old little girl running to a bomb shelter. When I was 6, I was running to first base in a Little League game in Euclid. What a different childhood most of us here were given. As the war did get more intense, Mom and her older sister were sent with other children to a safer location in the north of Scotland for a period of time, which she told me she hated and cried every night missing her parents. Mom was married on February 2nd, 1957 at 23 years old at the Parkhead Congregational Church in Glasgow, Scotland. Mom had 2 children, myself and my sister Andrea. Mom was always very encouraging and supportive of us. As kids, Mom and Dad allowed us to try just about anything we wanted to do. Andrea was involved in Highland dancing, track teams, dancing, tap dancing, and gymnastics. Excuse me. I was involved in baseball, golf, pipe band drilling, and ice hockey. One of the things I'm most grateful for is that Mom and Dad gave us the best childhood we could ever want. And Mom was the constant. She was always there. Mom had a great love for her extended family. Her daughter-in-law Judy, her son-in-law Dave, her grandchildren Lauren, David, Andrew, Austin, Sarah, Lydia, and of course, the precious new great-granddaughter Cora, whom she got to meet and hold ever so briefly. My mom and dad never sat still as they pursued an opportunity leading them to immigrate to Canada in 1962 and eventually the United States in 1964. I don't know how she did it with 2 small children in tow, but she did pull it off. Some of my earliest memories I have are of cold winter nights in Toronto, Canada, going to what seemed like the biggest, most massive grocery store, me walking with Mom holding her coat, and Andrea riding in the cart. It's a memory. As I said, we immigrated to the USA in 1964 and settled in Euclid, and that is where they pursued and accomplished the American dream of owning a home and building a lifetime of wonderful memories for our family. There were some challenges and crazy funny stories along the way. The first I'll share is my father belonged to a club made up of former Scotsmen. The name of the club was the Clan Grant. It promoted Scottish heritage and traditions. They had events like men's meetings, family picnics, and dances with their spouses. Well, Mom would tell all her American friends that Dad belonged to the Clan. Leaving out the ever so important word Grant. That made a big difference, I'm sure, and probably made a few friends think twice about that nice young Scottish couple. My mom had a love of math and figures, and that's what probably led her to a few jobs in bookkeeping and then into banking, where she made some great lifelong friends. In retirement while living in Florida, Mom loved her Daughters of Scotia Club in Dunedin. She had so many close and dear friends there with endless activities for her, like lunches, dinners, lodge meetings, dances, and other events they would attend. And of course, the phone calls. All the ladies keeping in touch, she just loved that. My mom was a fierce competitor while playing golf in her ladies' league, at which she won many prizes and trophies. She loved golf, and she enjoyed watching golf on television too, the major events. She also loved lawn bowling with her friends down in Dunedin, and also enjoyed playing bocce ball in Palm Harbor. She loved many sports, but what I feel she loved most was ice hockey, and watching one of her 3 grandsons playing. She also loved her Tampa Bay Lightning. So one last time for you, Mom. Go Bolts. My mom always seemed to find the humor in just about everything. I remember the time in Florida she was in the pool with the boys and my wife, and my dad was inside our house grabbing snacks. All of a sudden, there was a huge bang, and we all looked up to my dad falling backwards after attempting to walk through our huge sliding glass door that was closed. Mom could not control the laughter. It was endless. Endless. My dad failed to see the humor. My mom thought everything in life was just beautiful, no matter what it was, what it looked like, or what it tasted like, except for the soup or the tea. It wasn't hot enough and had to be reheated. Always. Well, Mom lived a relatively full, healthy life up until her stroke in October of 23, and then the quality of life that she had taken advantage of for all those years just wasn't there. I do know now she is enjoying real beauty in heaven and has left all of us here with beautiful memories of her until we meet her again. In finishing, even though Mom traveled the world and spent the last 63 years of her life here in the United States and loved it, there are a few things she never lost. First, with her Scottish accent. Everybody who met Mom loved her Scottish accent. And the second was her love for Scotland. As a piece of her heart, I truly felt never left there. So in wrapping up, I'd like to finish with a few lyrics of one of her favorite songs written by Billy Connolly. It's called I Wish I Was in Glasgow. It says, "Oh, I wish I was in Glasgow with some good old friends of mine, some good old rough companions, and some good old smooth red wine. Glasgow gave me more than it ever took away and prepared me for life on the road." What a life.
I tell you what, I couldn't help but think that it was divine providence with the way Les gave that beautiful remembrance and what I put down in words, because it was an affirmation that, and the indelible impression that she made on our lives, several of the same things you brought up came to my mind. It's amazing. So Mom, you got a 2-for-1 here.
Yeah.
And again, like Les mentioned, on behalf of our entire family and family live streaming from across the pond, everybody wave over here at the camera. We thank you for celebrating with us the life and memory of Sarah White Reedstein MacLeod. Yeah, that's a mouthful. But in the true British way, she was always so proper, genuine, and dignified. She also put on no false pretenses, not pretending to be someone or something she wasn't. And you knew where she stood when you spoke with her. When someone would say to her nicely, "My, what a nice accent you have," she would correct them and get somewhat defensive by saying, "It's not me that has the accent, but you." Lovely was her favorite word, and I must have heard it 1,000 times. It was her way of expressing approval and affection for someone or something as small as a lovely cup of tea with a biscuit. And boy, she loved her biscuits and chocolate. Flake and crunchy bars, Empire biscuits, buttons. She would have them hidden all over the place, under her mattress, in drawers. And I would say, "Ma, you're worse than an alcoholic, hiding bottles all over the house." Another thing in her latter years was her love for what she called hankies. Now, these were puff tissues. And no matter where she went, she had to have them. She would even pilfer them when going to the doctors for appointments when they were out in the reception area. And when I say pilfer, she'd take the whole box. And it wasn't like she always had a runny nose all the time. I guess it was just comfort to her, I suppose. And she would have them stuck up with the arms of her sleeves and her pockets, and if I didn't check the clothes before washing, I'd have mounds of confetti to deal with in the washer and dryer. It was a total mess. And then I would come upstairs and I'd throw them up in the air and I'd say, "Happy New Year! We have a confetti party downstairs." And then she would look at me with her wry smile on her face, like she got away with something. When Dad, Mom, and Les and Andrea immigrated to Canada, fate, or divine providence, as I would call it, brought them to Euclid. And I often marveled at why Dad would just pick up and leave a good paying job in a Rolls Royce. That he knew he had a wife and a partner who would be able to handle the upheaval in navigating a new life for Les and Andrea here in the States. And our family and all of you are living proof of the legacy she leaves behind. Sarah was very active in Les and Andrea's schooling and activities, with sports, gymnastics, and Les playing in a pipe band. And being what I would call a hockey mom these days, she drove Les and his buddies all over town and out of state to compete in games and pipe band competitions. She was a Brownie troop leader for Andrea and got her active in Highland dancing. So you can see how this is the same. I mean, we didn't copy each other, no, believe me. And she got her, and Dad and Mom belonged to the Scottish Lodge where they met and befriended other Scots who had also immigrated. They would alternate hosting parties at each other's house with friends Jimmy Dolan, Norman Duncan, neighbor Frank Etoff, and his wife Connie, I believe was her name, and her very dear friends John and Marge Mahavolik. But it was also important for Mom and Dad to instill in Les and Andrea their love of the Scottish roots and culture. They went back to Scotland just about every other summer when they were young. And this vital connection to family, namely her sister Aunt Chrissy, mom's Aunt Annie, her cousin Isabel, brothers Billy and Andrew, nieces Lorraine and Ann, nephews William, Robert and his wife Joanne, John, Max, and Jane remain close to this day. And Robert and Joanne would come over just about every other summer, and they would stay at our house, and they would catch up Aunt Sadie on how everybody was doing back home. And family was of the utmost importance to her, and she maintained her connection with her beloved native land. She lived in the USA, but as Les said, her heart remained in Scotland. And her and Dad even got this 100%er Slovenian to adopt the love of the pipes, and I embraced the culture. When the kids got older, she began working as a teller at the old Cleveland Trust Bank and in Collinwood. And there she would meet her co-workers, Kathy, Liz, Rose, and Yvonne, who are here today, who have become lifelong friends to this day. While in hospice, Kathy, you might recall this, as you told the story, and then Mom was kind of even jumping in, of the time that you went out after work at the 5-Point Bar on 152nd Street. And you guys tied on a pretty good run from what you said. And
the Bridge Tavern.
Bridge Tavern. Sorry about that. They called it 5 Points though in that area, right?
Yes.
Okay. And we had a lot of laughs at her bedside. And it's a good memory for me because Mom passed just a few days later. And Kathy mentioned that somehow they ended up at the fire department across the street up into the wee hours of the morning. And God only knows how you ended up there. And they lost the bank keys and had to make another set. Rose, I don't know if you know this story.
Oh, yeah.
Then,
He had to tell her husband he was head of security at our bank.
well, that's what you said. Then one of the firemen then came over after you got another set made and handed you the keys. And you were so scared that you went up to Niagara Falls and threw them over the falls. She retired at the young age of 55, and when Dad retired, they spent the winter months down in Florida. They were able to enjoy time with Les and Judy and watching their twin young grandsons, Andrew and Austin, grow up. Hockey practices, games, and just boys being boys kept them busy. And then she'd often say, they'll keep you young. And now I know how that is with chasing around little Dakota and soon Coraline. Look at her, just sitting there, peaceful, beautiful. And then when her beloved Donnie passed away 26 years ago, it's hard to believe. Although she was heartbroken, she pushed and continued live a very active life down in Florida. She was never one to sit idle, very active in golf, bowling, and bocce, belonging to leagues. Why, she even carded a hole-in-one and displayed the trophy proudly at her house. I never got a hole-in-one. Have you ever had a hole-in-one? Oh, you do? She could also be content just sitting alone in her recliner at home, and she would often comment over the phone when asking, how she was doing, that she's very happy. One of the things I marveled at was that she wasn't afraid or unwilling to learn new things. She became very adept at technology, and her iPhone and iPad were always at her side. She was on Facebook, and although she would comment on total strangers' posts, much to the chagrin of Sarah and Lydia, she knew how to navigate through it. She would play game after game after game of solitaire on her iPad. And I'd say, aren't you sick of that game, Ma? And she would say, David, I got to keep my brain working. She loved to listen to music. Some of her favorites, Susan Boyle, Rod Stewart, and of course, Billy Connolly. In her bedroom, so she was in the basement, so we'd have a monitor down there. And if she needed to get up to go to the bathroom or anything like that, she would call out. But sometimes, you'd hear, I'm trying to sleep, and you'd hear her, you know, playing either a movie, and she loved to play the song, like Les mentioned, I Wish I Was in Glasgow. And she played it over and over again. And then she must have clicked on another Billy Connolly, if anybody knows Billy Connolly, stand-up routines, and I would hear this cussing that you couldn't believe, as only a Scotsman could do it. And I'd go down to her bedroom and I said, what the heck are you listening to? She goes, David, I love to hear his voice. She had a circle of friends down in Florida, Irene, Elsie, and Isabel, and they would go out for lunch, dinner several times a week. Mom called them the dear old souls. And then I'd ask her, Mom, who do you think you are? They also attended plays together, and she was an active member of Palm Harbor Presbyterian Church. She was also a member of an organization, like Les mentioned, the Daughters of Scotia, a fraternal order of women, which celebrated its 126th anniversary of its Grand Lodge this past year. Then in the summer months, she would come up north and spend the summers with Les, Judy, and us. You know, you hear horror stories of guys complaining about their mother-in-law, and that was never the case with me. I called her Mom, and she was a blessing to have around for so many years. She was an unselfish, devoted, loyal, caring, and giving Nana to her grandkids, Andrew, Austin, Lauren, David, Lydia, great-granddaughter Cora, Sarah, sorry. Of all people, Sarah. Oh, man, I blew that one. And her special Dakota. They could do no wrong in her eyes. And I forgot to mention Corey, Lauren's fiance, and Dakota's dad, Cody. I remember a hockey game that my son was playing in. He got steamrolled by a guy, and it was, I think, when he was first allowed to check. And I remember hearing her shouting from the stands, I wish David would just go up and belt him. Her and I bonded. I was always playing the prankster, getting her wound up, only to say, shut up, David. She stayed on and off living with us and Les for about 26 years after Dad died. And her and I would have some personal talks about her faith in Christ, in which I know she was a believer. She loved going out to Solon to see Pastor Alistair Begg preach at Parkside Church. With his distinct, proper Scottish way of delivering the message, it held her captive, and she would often live stream the service when she couldn't get out much. Come to find out that his mom was from the same town as Alistair's mom. Small world, you know. Then on October 18th, 2023, we were celebrating my son's David's birthday at home in Euclid. And all day had passed without hearing from his Nana, in which was very out of the norm. With every one of her grandchildren, she would faithfully call on their birthdays. And David immediately sensed something was wrong, so he called the Pinellas County Sheriff to do a well check on her. They seen her car in the garage, so they breached the door and found her lying on the floor of her bedroom, conscious but not very communicative. And they estimated she was probably there for about 12 hours based on her last, of course, Facebook post, and not answering her phone because people were calling and calling and calling. She was then rushed to a hospital down in Clearwater, and emergency surgery was performed on her brain, and they used suction to remove the clot. Miraculously, at 90 years old, she didn't suffer too much debilitating paralysis or loss of her motor skills. But she had a lengthy stay in rehab for several weeks, and then home to relearn how to do the basic things in life to navigate the home. She celebrated her 90th birthday just the past April of, 23, and she was one tough, determined lass, watching her reclaim her independence. Both Les, Judy, Austin, and Andrea and I were with her every step of the way, and from there, Andrea flew back with her mom right after Thanksgiving, which was no small feat given her age and her condition. She remained with us for the past 15 months, and for the most part was very comfortable, although the stroke and just being the right old age of almost 92 took its toll on her body. But it was what I would call a labor of love caring for her, as it comes full circle of when they cared for us when we were wee ones. And Andrea, your unselfish care for Mom was something to behold. Mom was a fantastic lady, one of a kind, and I admired her greatly. She will be sorely missed by all of us. While her physical presence is gone, her spirit, love, laughter, and the lessons she taught us will remain with us forever.